whispers, alibis thin. Two sharp-eyed sleuths say, all right, who sinned? Has tipped low, clues fall in line. They read between the lines, right on time. Grim starts sweating when the squad rolls through. Every story tested, most don't stand up to prove. So grab your fedora, jump right in. True Crime Squad's on, and the trouble begins. Join the super squad, bonus laughs, deeper clues. Same sharp sleuths, just extra clues.
Hey everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Just keeping on. We got our two other big Halloween statues up. I'll share them at a later date. But yeah, our big T-Rex. Oh my God, it's amazing. And yeah, my
Pictures
art's
are awesome.
starting to look a bit like Halloween, so that's pretty exciting.
How
But yeah,
fun.
all good here.
Well, good. I'm exhausted from the Lindsay Clancy trial, man. Whew. It's
Yeah.
intense. It's tiring. It's infuriating regularly. So
Yeah.
that's all I got to say about that today. But yeah, we'll do an update tomorrow night on where things are at. But man, this is an intense trial, and we're on tomorrow will be day 12.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and they called it a 6 to 8 week trial. I can't imagine it goes that long.
They did, and we're in week 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I hope it doesn't, but we'll see.
Well, especially because jury selection did start this week in Mario
Fernandez
Saldana. Yeah. That also is getting ready
to roll.
Yes,
it did. So it is. Well, we need when
Shoot, you are really freezing for me.
I don't know if it's me or if it's you. Am I disappearing for you?
You just keep freezing on me.
Well, I think...
Shit, well, you just restarted, so
yeah.
I will. And see if that helps us. Yeah.
Okay. I'll get started on my case, and then we'll come back to yours. Alrighty, sorry guys, we seem to be having a little bit of trouble today. We were freezing before we came on, and so I restarted my computer, but now Katie's freezing too. So anyway, we'll go out of order a little bit. We're going to start with the Latarsha Sanders case. This is Latarsha Sanders. Latarsha Sanders, let me tell you, I'll just tell you the whole story because this is really interesting. I've talked about it already a little bit, so you know kind of what this is going to be. But this happened in Brockton, Massachusetts in February of 2018. Latarsha Sanders killed her sons, Edson Marlowe Brito and Lasan Brito. Marlon was 8, Lasan was 5. She was accused of stabbing her kids in their Brockton apartment. There's really no dispute at trial that Sanders killed the children. So this case has the same question that the Lindsay Clancy case had. Well, it had that Lindsay Clancy has. The question was Latarsha Sanders criminally responsible for her actions because of her mental condition at the time? So she went to trial in 2022, and the jury rejected the mental health defense and convicted Sanders of 2 counts of first-degree murder. So she received 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. And then she's been serving her time. She's actually spent a fair amount of time in hospitals as well as prison because her mental health is very serious. So just last week, in August of 2026, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court vacated her murder convictions and ordered a new trial.
Yeah.
They did not exonerate her, but they did conclude that important psychiatric evidence had been improperly withheld from the jury by Judge Sullivan, Lindsay Clancy's
Wow.
judge. It's so wild.
The
This is all
timing is so
happening
crazy.
at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we know about this case. Latarsha Sanders did not have a diagnosed serious mental illness before February of 2018. However, she had been behaving very strangely leading up to the murders. Family members had noticed a lot of changes in her behavior. She was paranoid. Her thinking and speech were disorganized. She'd gotten really suspicious and
Oh.
preoccupied with some really bizarre ideas. She had gotten to be afraid that members of her own family might harm her children.
Oh no.
And she had believed that her mother and her older daughter, Shalia, might poison Marlon and Lasan. So she'd been communicating things like that to the family for a little while,
Oh dear.
which does, establish some psychotic or delusional thinking on her part. 2 days before the bodies of the boys were discovered, Sanders was at her mom's house with her sons, and her mom said that she was rambling and behaving strangely. She was discussing things like human sacrifice,
Oh God.
excuse me, and needing to obtain a human heart. She was talking about some strange ritualistic stuff involving voodoo and concerns about the safety of her children. One belief that she had shared is that she thought she needed to get a human heart in order to save her dying father. The problem was her father wasn't actually dying at all.
Oh boy.
So the whole thing was, mixed up in her head.
How did
So
she still have her children?
well, apparently this was fairly new, that this had been happening for a short time prior to the boy's death, but not a long time.
Oh boy.
So on the day of the murders, she attacked her 8-year-old son Marlon with a kitchen knife, and prosecutors said that Marlon was stabbed about 50 times. And then she attacked her 5-year-old Lasan. In some statements that she made after the murders, killing Marlon did not accomplish whatever psychotic belief she had.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she had to then kill her younger son. That's what she believed. And both kids had really extensive stab wounds.
Oh God.
Yeah. So after the murders, Latarsha cleaned the boys and put their bodies in separate beds, and she cleaned up parts of the apartment. She didn't call for any medical help or call 911 or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And left what they believed to be the murder weapon in a sink. The police used this as her intentionally cleaning up and considered this to be an indication that she was criminally responsible because she knew what she'd done is wrong. We don't know why Latarsha did those things, but that is the theory that the prosecution put forward, is that
Right.
in some way she was trying to cover her crime. I mean, not very well, but
I mean, she just put her babies to bed. She didn't bury them in the
Right.
backyard.
Exactly.
But
they said that
cleanup.
her behavior demonstrated purposeful thinking, and that she understood. Sorry, that her conduct was wrong. But the defense said, and this is very important for this case and also for Lindsay Clancy, that a person experiencing psychosis can still perform organized or purposeful physical actions, which is
Right.
entirely true. So the question wasn't could she clean an apartment? You know, it was whether her mental illness prevented her from appreciating the criminality of her actions, um,
Yeah.
or understanding that what she'd done was illegal
Mm-hmm.
or wrong.
Yeah.
So someone, and I'm not sure who, made a 911 call on February 5th of 2018 at 12:07 p.m., reporting to the police that there was a medical emergency at her apartment building. And when the emergency personnel got there, she was outside, behaving really erratically. She was combative and very stressed. And they initially transported her for a medical evaluation because something
Mm-hmm.
was off
Right.
about her behavior. Then they went into her apartment and discovered her children in separate beds, having suffered many, many stab wounds, and found the kitchen knife in the sink. So police immediately focused on Sanders for the investigation of what happened to her kids.
Mm-hmm.
When they interviewed her, she made a lot of really strange statements. She talked about practicing voodoo and ritualistic beliefs. I'm so sorry. I have a sore throat. She talked about human sacrifice, and other people being involved in the
Yikes.
deaths of the kids, and some really bizarre explanations around blood. And at one point she said that her daughter Shalia wanted a little blood.
Oh.
She also talked about that she did the killings for the Illuminati because it would please them to do it.
Oh my God.
So the prosecution said she was just making all this up to avoid responsibility for the deaths of her children. The defense said she was profoundly psychotic and very ill,
Mm-hmm.
and that she wasn't criminally responsible. So it's the same argument that's happening right now
Yeah.
in the Lindsay Clancy trial. This is not a postpartum case, obviously, because her kids were 8 and 5, but it is the same core question. Was she sane at the time of the murders, or did she
Mm-hmm.
not understand what she was doing? Should she be convicted of first-degree murder, or should she be found not guilty by reason of no criminal responsibility due to mental health? It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. What was the state's idea of motive?
I haven't really seen one, honestly. They just said she killed her kids.
Yeah, which she did kill her kids. Oh
Right.
boy.
Right. But this case is not about who killed the kids, right?
Again.
But that's
Yeah.
what but it's the same concept as Lindsay Clancy. Like, that's what they're prosecuting, even though Lindsay Clancy has agreed that she's the one who did it. So did Latarsha Sanders.
Yeah.
So they also bring in a witness intimidation charge because in some of her statements about why she did what she did and what happened, she implicated other people, like the statement about her daughter. And so they charged her with witness intimidation for that. So she also had witness intimidation charges. Their theory basically was that she was trying to redirect blame, and that also demonstrated consciousness of guilt. And that if she knew she needed to blame someone else, that she understood that what she had done is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The defense argued that the constantly shifting stories reflected a disorganized and delusional mind, which I would agree.
That was definitely happening. Yeah.
So immediately upon being arrested, they started evaluating her and providing her treatment while in custody because she wasn't even well enough to be in a jail.
Mm-hmm.
She had clinicians that treated her, and these are the ones within the state system. Like, this isn't an evaluator on the outside. These are the people who were treating her, who said she had paranoia, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, persecutory beliefs, impaired self-care, and unusual behavior. and they diagnosed her with a schizophrenia spectrum illness, or sometimes they're calling it paranoid schizophrenia, but basically they diagnosed her with schizophrenia within the jail system. So her psychiatric state really deteriorated while she was in custody. And in September of 2019, she was involuntarily committed to Worcester Recovery Center and Hospital. This is a Massachusetts state psychiatric facility. Important to know because that is a place that potentially Lindsay Clancy could also go.
Right.
She was still experiencing auditory hallucinations, paranoia, disorganization, poor hygiene. She couldn't take care of herself. It's called grave disability, when someone is not able to even like shower or brush their teeth or put on clean clothes, or maybe even put on clothes at all, like those kinds of things. And so her symptoms persisted long after the murders and actually continue to persist to today. So the defense, of course, was not that she denied killing her children. It was that she suffered from severe psychosis when she killed her kids, and maintains to this day that she doesn't actually remember doing it. So here is the Massachusetts criminal responsibility standard. Mental illness does not automatically equal legal insanity, as we know through so many cases. A defendant can have schizophrenia, they can be experiencing hallucinations and delusions and still be criminally responsible.
Yeah.
The question is whether the mental illness caused the defendant to lack substantial capacity to appreciate the criminality or wrongfulness of their conduct, or conform her conduct to the requirements of the law. So once criminal responsibility comes up, the state bears the burden to establish criminal responsibility beyond a reasonable doubt. It's exactly the same thing we're seeing play out right now.
Yeah.
So the defense expert in this case was Dr. Thomas Dieters, and he was a clinical neuropsychologist, and he did a 16-hour evaluation of Sanders, reviewed all of her records, photographs of the crime, her police interrogations, and her psychiatric history, and he concluded that she was suffering from severe psychosis at the time of the killings. And so his opinion supported the position that her illness impaired her ability to appreciate the criminality of her actions. So then we get the Commonwealth's own mental health expert, Dr. Stacy Fiore, who evaluated her and concluded that she suffered from a serious mental illness that was best characterized as paranoid schizophrenia. Reported that her symptoms included paranoia, delusions, and hallucinations. She said she could not reach a definitive conclusion concerning her criminal responsibility, but that she believed it was highly likely that Sanders was symptomatic around the time of the murders. So guess what the prosecution did with that? They didn't call her at trial.
Oh.
Because their own
witness was going to say...
witness validates the diagnosis and says she can't say for sure that she was criminally responsible, and leans toward that probably wasn't. So they just didn't call her.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
we're just playing to win no matter what.
Exactly. Playing to win no matter what. We're just seeing it play out exactly the same way right now. So basically, the prosecution doesn't have to say she didn't have any mental illness, but they're trying to say that she was criminally responsible, that she knew what she'd done is wrong. She tried to blame other people. She tried to cover up her crime. That's what they're saying. The prosecutor in this case was Amanda Fowle, and she was very aggressive toward the insanity defense. She called what Sanders was doing, trying to play the crazy card.
Oh.
You think these prosecutors are ignorant that we're dealing with now? Holy shit. Yeah. So basically, she posited it to the jury like this. Was Sanders mentally ill, or was she just evil? You know, pretty pretty controversial given the huge amount of documented evidence of
Right.
the illness, right?
Including from her
Here's
own experts. Yeah.
here's what they came up with as motive, and it's so silly that they found an old notebook where Sanders had written at one point that the possibility that a good story could generate money. And so they said that was motive for the crime. It wasn't even written anywhere near around the time of the crime. But they said that she was motivated by attention and notoriety and potentially writing a book and potential and financial gain. It's really a very flimsy motive.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Any one of us could write that in a notebook.
Right. Does that mean we
Would commit a crime for
we
it?
commit a murder for it? Yeah, it's pretty wild. The
Mm-hmm.
other evidence that they had is that apparently when they found the children, there was an episode of Law and Order SVU playing on Sanders TV. And the prosecution tried to make comparisons between what was happening in the episode
Mm-hmm.
to what she'd done, and that she got
Mm-hmm.
her ideas from the TV show. The appellate court later identified that as a very important problem in this trial
Mm-hmm.
because there wasn't any evidence establishing that she even watched the parts of the program that may have
Right.
influenced her actions, supported supposedly by the prosecution. Their case was weak.
Yeah.
But here's why the jury ended up finding her guilty. And that is because Judge William F. Sullivan didn't allow the records to come in of the 4 years of mental health treatment that she had been receiving from the time of the murders on.
Mm-hmm.
There was a huge amount of evidence here, right? Tons of records, tons of, state doctors and evaluators and stuff. Huge record. So they allowed a doctor to come in and validate her diagnosis, but they didn't allow the records to be seen. He didn't allow the records to be seen by the jury.
Why?
So it really minimized. I don't know. He restricted that. Of course, the state asked for that. And for whatever reason, he didn't feel that those records were relevant.
Whew.
And we're going to see some of this in Lindsay Clancy because
Yeah.
her children died 3.5 years ago. She has most certainly received treatment after that fact. She was receiving treatment leading up to. And after, I am sure, we're going to see some of that. And some of her providers are on the witness list for the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 2022 trial, the defense was really hobbled because there was a whole bunch of evidence about her mental health that they could not present. This trial only lasted 9 days.
Wow.
If that tells you anything about, we are headed into day 12 in Lindsay Clancy tomorrow, and we're nowhere near done.
No.
And so the limiting of the defense and the defense's evidence, it made for a very short trial.
Yeah.
So jurors heard about the murders, the crime scene, all of the forensics and all that stuff, just like they have in Lindsay Clancy.
Mm-hmm.
And they heard some psychiatric evidence, but they didn't get the clear, full picture about how seriously mentally ill Latarsha Sanders is.
Yeah.
And so in December of 2022, they convicted her in 2 counts of first-degree murder and the witness intimidation. She got 2 life without parole sentences, plus a concurrent sentence for witness intimidation. So her appellate attorneys, of course, challenged several aspects of the trial, including the law and order thing. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest issue was the exclusion of those psychiatric records, that she's trying to use a mental health defense and then not being allowed to bring in her mental health records, which is prejudicial.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court of Massachusetts found it to be most definitely prejudicial. And so they have granted her a new trial.
Wow.
So they didn't exonerate her. You know, they also have not determined that she is legally insane or was at the time of the crime. None of those things. They've just said that decision was prejudicial to her defense. She has to be tried again.
Yeah.
So it's going to go before a jury again. She will not be released from prison. She will be staying where she's at. But a new jury has to look at this.
Yeah.
Some things to consider. She's now being housed in MCI Framingham, which is a women's prison in Massachusetts. But she's also spent time at Worcester Recovery Center and Hospital because she's seriously mentally ill. And that she has continued receiving mental health treatment and medication ever since the murders.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we know about her now is that she's doing better. She's back in the prison. She's not in a hospital at the moment, that she appears to be taking better care of herself. She's currently working toward her GED. And, you know, she's found Jesus, as they generally do. She was baptized and is participating in Bible study. But she's not mentally ill.
Right, but she is better managed now.
Better managed, yeah. She talks about her sons as though they are still alive. And talks about how much she loves her kids. And she says she doesn't remember what happened on the day that they were killed. But she's definitely still seriously mentally ill.
Sure.
So a couple of things that have to be considered in this case is that not only do they have to do a new trial, but they're going to likely have to go through a competency evaluation with her to see if she is competent to stand trial.
Sure.
Because she's been hospitalized and treated and seriously mentally ill since the deaths of her children. So they're going to have to go through a competency evaluation for her now. And then they will have to go all the way back through the process of a trial with a new jury to determine, with the added evidence that she was denied the first time around, is she criminally responsible?
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that. The Supreme Court will be passing the case back down to the like district court or whatever they call it in
the lower court
in Massachusetts.
What an incredibly sad case. Those poor little boys.
I know. So awful. So horrendously sad.
Yeah.
Why, though, with all of the evidence, including their own expert agreeing with her mental health, did they fight so hard to get her for first-degree murder?
Yeah, I don't understand. She's another one that I'm like, okay, wouldn't it suit not just her, but the public better for her to be in a mental health institution versus a prison?
Right? Wouldn't it?
I mean, it would.
But that prosecutor was out for blood,
but
like these current ones are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is
we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the witness intimidation conviction. I don't know yet if that was also vacated or if that conviction stands. Not really sure.
Yeah.
But the second trial will be a lot different because the jury will get to hear, and it's not just 4 years of treatment now. It is 8 years of treatment that she has had since she was arrested.
Right.
And that'll all be in this time, because whoever the judge is going to be in this case, they're certainly not going to make the same mistake Sullivan did.
Yeah.
Well, it's not double jeopardy because they have vacated the first conviction.
Yeah.
So they've said this is a bad conviction. She is no longer convicted of this crime. So that's why they can try her a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they'll be able to see a whole lot more about what was going on with her at the time and the evaluations made of her at the time, and then everything that's happened since then.
Yeah.
They'll be able to see all that psychiatric evidence.
Yeah.
So obviously this is wild that this is happening at the same time as the Lindsay Clancy trial, because there's so much overlap.
Yeah.
Including the judge. Like, that's just wild.
Yeah. It's really crazy that it's the same judge.
Especially because right now they are arguing, the defense is arguing for getting more of their evidence in for the defense's case in Lindsay Clancy.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that Judge Sullivan isn't learning a thing or two.
Yeah. I think so.
About his own rulings. We're going to see more in, I will bet you, because he doesn't want to make the same mistake twice.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the Latarsha Sanders case.
So while we're on the topic, we had an email from a listener that I thought was
yes,
apropos for this conversation. So this was I'll just read you the whole note or part of it. She said, I thought it would be a relevant topic of discussion. I know you're strongly advocating that Lindsay couldn't have helped herself due to mental illness, but I'm having a hard time combing out how one mental illness is more forgivable, re murder, than another. I feel so many murderers, rapists, etc. have mental illness. What is your idea of when mental illness should overshadow the crime itself? I think it's a really good question, because that's true.
Absolutely.
We see a ton of mental illness in crime. Absolutely. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, when mental health is used as a defense, then it comes much more into play. There are plenty of mentally ill defendants who commit crimes. But the point here is not just that they are mentally ill, but that their mental illness made them not criminally responsible at the time of the crime. That's the question that we're trying to answer. Yeah. And that's why these cases have more emphasis for us, is because that is the question. Was this person not only mentally ill, but their mental illness made them not responsible for their actions at the time of the crime? They did not understand that what they were doing was wrong.
Right.
That's the big difference. The other part of that, I think, that's really important, especially with Lindsay Clancy, but this one too, is that we want our system to get better so these things don't happen again.
Right.
If Lindsay Clancy had had the right treatment, she may not have killed her children.
Right.
And
Andrea Yates, and maybe this lady, and
Andrea Yates, and if Latarsha Sanders had had better access to mental health care, someone had recognized what was happening with her and gotten her into care quickly, she may not have killed her kids. But our system does not handle these kinds of cases well, particularly mothers who kill their children. There's such anger and pain behind those crimes that things get clouded when it comes to, but what about criminal responsibility? I mean, I cannot fathom how Latarsha Sanders is responsible for her crime. When you read that whole history, and her illness after the fact, and all of the things and all of the evaluations, how can you consider her to be responsible for the crime she committed? I don't understand it. It is not nearly as obvious in Lindsay Clancy.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that the evidence is there for not being criminally responsible, but Lindsay Clancy's experience with psychosis is different
Very.
Latarsha Sanders is the kind of person who is jabbering and making no sense and making threats and behaving crazy and saying
killing
crazy,
for the
scary stuff.
Illuminati and
Yes. And this kind of case is the case that is much more obvious. The problem is that not everybody's experience with psychosis is the same.
Yep.
Lindsay Clancy was definitely exhibiting signs of psychosis, but her providers were missing it.
Yeah.
Latarsha Sanders, had she had providers, they would have had her in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it always also comes up with access to mental health care. Lindsay Clancy, a white lady with insurance, has had a lot of care.
Yeah.
Not the best care, but she's had care.
Yeah.
Latarsha Sanders didn't have anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Latarsha Sanders didn't even have her GED.
No.
So did she have any access to medical care at all? I don't know.
Right. It's a very different world those two were living in.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, Jess said, if you go by the law, it's whether the mental illness has made them unable to tell the difference between right and wrong, and that it was active at the time of preventing you from appreciating the wrongness. For example, you could be suffering from depression, but still know that stealing is wrong. Right. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And if she thinks she has to kill the children for the Illuminati or to save her dad or whatever delusion it is, she's not recognizing that what she's doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that's what they're trying to prove with Lindsay Clancy too. And we're going to see some very similar things presented when the defense gets on the stand and they get their evidence up and they're experts and stuff, because Lindsay Clancy has been being treated all along. And her attorney said in his opening statement that she continues to be actively suicidal every single day.
Yeah.
So we need to see, it's not like someone has a break, has an experience like this, commits a horrible crime, and then is suddenly not mentally ill anymore. No. When a mental illness has gone to the severity of murdering your own children, that's going to be a lifelong illness. That's not going anywhere.
Certainly. Yeah.
And so we will likely see what Lindsay Clancy's treatment is now,
right?
What her diagnosis is now, because there's been a lot more time after the deaths of her children to better understand her illness than prior, which is very similar to Latarsha Stevens.
For sure. Well, and to be really clear, no one is saying that either of these women should just be walking free.
No,
they're saying that they should be treated appropriately for what was happening, what is happening, what's really going on. Yeah.
So right. I think so too, Jess, that Lindsay Clancy's mental health went way worse after killing her children and trying to kill herself. That's also what happened with Latarsha Stevens. She got significantly worse and ended up with a hospital commitment while she was in prison or while she was in jail awaiting trial. Those are the kinds of things that we need to see, because that validates the illness. If they were ill before the crime, during the crime, and after the crime, to the point that they didn't know what they were doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And we need way significant changes to the system, which is why these cases being public is so important, because we need the world to see, hey, this is what's happening to people who are mentally ill and they're not getting the help that they need. And that's why
this
these
is
things
what's
occur.
Possible. I mean, with Lindsay Clancy, her doctors were like, she was not in a good place, but that's normal.
She was
that's
only
fine.
talking about experiencing intrusive thoughts and suicidal thoughts all the time, reporting that in writing to her doctor. And what was her doctor doing about that? Nothing.
She was like, well, yeah, that's normal. Well,
but you need to go check yourself into a hospital. No, she needed to be committed. She needed to be committed and held for a 30-day stay in order to really figure out what was wrong with her and balance her medication. But they didn't do that.
No.
And, Latarsha did not have the resources and the help that she needed when her behavior became strange like that. She needed someone to step in and say, something's wrong. We're worried about her safety and her kids.
Mm-hmm.
Get her help prior to the
Yeah.
deaths. That's the
Yeah.
goal.
It is. And unfortunately, hindsight's always 2020. I'm sure her mother looks back every day and goes, "Why didn't I do something different?"
Right.
And this isn't her fault. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming her at all. But
No.
I'm sure she's looked back and gone, "I should have done something different but I didn't realize what was really happening or how serious this really was." And
Well,
that's
what were the
because
resources in
what were
their
the
town?
resources and who
What could
does
she
know?
have even done?
Yeah.
Because some states have mobile psychiatric evaluation units that can just
Mm-hmm.
show up at somebody's house.
Yeah.
You can call and say, look, I've got a family member acting very strange and I'm worried about their safety. They can show up and evaluate them on site,
Mm-hmm.
get a judge's order, get them into the hospital. But
Yeah.
not every state has that.
Sure.
It's what we need. We need it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew.
Yes, Jess. Yeah. Hearing the notes that she was writing to her doctor, which were many times a day, which
Mm-hmm.
was enough that I went, how can you not see something's wrong here? When she
Yeah.
said, I feel like I'm not being heard
Mm-hmm.
about what is happening to me. She's
Yeah.
trying to verbalize it. But guys, that's not that easy to do when you are experiencing a serious mental illness.
Right.
She can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And if doctors weren't picking up her cues and paying attention and not constantly seeing her on Zoom, maybe they would have caught it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And let's be over precautious in postpartum depression. Absolutely,
Yes.
because we know this can happen. Now,
Yes.
is it common for these cases? No, it is not. There is a lot of postpartum depression that is treated,
Mm-hmm.
and that maybe there's a hospitalization or maybe there isn't even a hospitalization and no one is harmed. That is the
Right.
vast majority of what's happening. But
Sure.
these extreme cases show us the holes in our system.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Paula said if mental illness is taken seriously and treated properly, crime would go down greatly. But then we have the Lori Daybells of the world who will never admit they did anything wrong or have mental illness. Absolutely. Both sides of the
Right.
coin. Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing we can do with that. If
Yeah.
the individual does not say, I want my defense to be a mental health defense,
Mm-hmm.
it can't be.
Yep.
Which I think also is a limitation in our system,
Yeah.
because it's putting all of the pressure on the individual to determine if they're mentally ill or not. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really the opposite of being mentally ill. You don't
Yeah.
know. You know there's something wrong, but you don't know what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to verbalize it. That's
Yeah.
been so clear in Lindsay Clancy. It's very clear in this case too. Latarsha
Yeah.
didn't know
No.
what to do in this situation. She was doing what her brain told her to do.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult. So yeah, and I think it's a great question. Why is the focus so heavily on mental health? It's because it's being used as a defense.
Yeah.
Mental illness can be used as a reason to sentence someone a little less. There can be reports to the judge after the fact in a case
Mm-hmm.
where mental illness is not the defense itself, but it doesn't really come into play about guilt or innocence. But in
Right.
these cases, it does.
Yeah. Very
It can be
different.
used as mitigation, but not
And
for
in
after
some
the fact.
states,
But
like in Idaho, we don't even have an insanity defense.
no, we don't.
I
Yeah.
was thinking about the Jeremy Best case. Jeremy, of course, murdered his wife and his baby, and his wife was pregnant, and so
Yeah.
essentially killed three. And Jeremy was also having a psychotic break at the time, and unfortunately was released from the hospital with no treatment. And the same day went home and committed all of these murders, and well, into the next day. But we don't have an insanity plea here, and they found him fit to stand trial, which we were shocked about because he was out of his mind
Yeah.
when those things happened. But they got him medicated and got him straightened out enough that they could put him on trial. And of course, he has gone to prison forever. And I mean, Jeremy obviously is an extremely dangerous person and should not just be free in the public at all. But that's a
Right.
case that in another state, the insanity defense likely would have come in. But Idaho doesn't even offer that.
Yeah.
It can be a mitigating factor for sentencing But in his case, it really wasn't even. I mean, they just didn't
No, it wasn't a
really
mitigating
address
factor at
mental
all.
health. It was wild.
Well, that's
Yeah.
how Idaho is. That's how Idaho is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty, so that's
Just
Latarsha
very sad
Stevens, or
situation.
Saunders, I
All of
mean,
these.
and just pretty fascinating. I'm grateful for her that she gets a new trial because it may affect the way that she is housed, which would be good for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And the impact that it may have on the Lindsay Clancy trial directly is pretty fascinating.
Indeed.
With that, Katie, I am going to kick the mic over to you for a crime news update.
Okay. You may have heard about what's been happening in Spokane, Washington.
Oh, God, yeah.
A horrific series of fires that has cost the community, the people there, around 700 homes, businesses, and other structures. Entire neighborhoods just razed to the ground. It's just an unthinkable amount of loss in a fire like this. The firefighting efforts have been tremendous, but also an insane amount of loss. And so, of course, as these fires are burning, people are asking, how the hell has this happened? It's a very dry year. There's a lot of fires burning, right? And we've been under smoke cover for weeks. We still are. And everyone around us is. And a lot of times fires like this are started by lightning or are started by some other factor. We had a fire last week that was started by the railroad. Things happen.
Yeah.
Unthinkably, though, in Washington, they were started by this guy, allegedly. He's been charged. His name is Aaron Farinacci. And Aaron has a hell of a past. Before I share that with you, though, I am going to share the press conference. It's only about 4 minutes long, but it's super informative. So let's go straight there.
Some information with you. About 5 p.m. this afternoon, we executed an arrest warrant and search warrant in the city of Spokane, and we took 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci, a convicted felon, into custody on a single charge of arson in the first degree. About 3 o'clock this afternoon, an arrest warrant affidavit and a search warrant affidavit were presented to Judge Zamblin. She signed the arrest warrant and set a $1 million bond on Mr. Farinacci. Mr. Farinacci is currently in custody and being interviewed by detectives from our major crimes unit here in the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. This investigation began at the beginning of the fire on August 1st. Thankfully, we had some very aware and alert citizens. They were driving into the area where the fire started near Euclid and I'm trying to remember the name of the street. Old Trail and Euclid. The witness, a citizen, very good citizen, noticed a male standing on the side of the road looking into the trees as he was going to pick somebody up. About 10 minutes later, as he was coming back through the area, he noticed the male was bending down near some grass. At that point, the male stood up and looked very nervous, according to our citizen witness. At that point, the male walked away. The citizen returned to their house. A short time later, after being at home, they saw smoke coming from what they believed was the area that they had seen the male bending down by the side of the road. The witnesses there did a fantastic job of returning to the scene. They contacted an Airway Heights police officer, gave that police officer a description of the suspect, including a physical description and a clothing description. That description was broadcast to units in the area. And be mindful, at the time, this was a very active, very early stages of the fire. So officers and deputies in the area were focusing on getting people out of the area to protect life as a first priority. Mr. Farinacci was contacted in the area about 1.5 miles from where the fire started and was detained, questioned, and ultimately released after being identified by our citizen witness. Mind you that a lot of the details that have come to light during the investigation were not known to the deputies who detained Mr. Farinacci that day. But because of body-worn camera evidence and reports, when major crimes detectives started investigating that early yesterday, they were able to identify him, and working with investigators from the Department of Natural Resources and major crimes detectives in Spokane County, they were able to identify him, develop probable cause, and determine that the origin of the fire was indeed exactly where the witnesses had seen Mr. Farinacci kneeling in the grass earlier that day. Our detectives worked with our prosecutor, Preston McCollum, this morning to make sure that we had a very solid case to present to a judge today. And again, as I said, the judge signed the warrant at 3 p.m. and we had him in custody at 5 p.m. with the assistance of our SWAT team's warrant assistance group. This was fantastic and very quick work by everybody involved. As it happens in so many critical cases, it was citizens who were paying attention to their surroundings, being aware and willing to step up and say something that led to the relatively quick apprehension of Mr. Farinacci. Mr. Farinacci is a convicted felon out of the state of Arizona. He has a felony conviction for manslaughter and a preceding arrest in the same case in premeditated murder in the state of Arizona. I will say that we had a lot of cooperation.
So there's that. So they
Wow.
set his bail initially at $1 million. But then they start talking to him, and he starts spilling his guts about all of the fires that he's been involved in setting. And so they increase that. So this is a snippet of his bail hearing. It's a little tougher to follow, but I think it's important.
In the amount of $2 million, the court will adopt all other release conditions as proposed at this time and note the reservation on those by defense.
Judge, we have reviewed the information, but we're going to move the court for an order for competency evaluation pursuant to RCW 1077. I provided those documents to Mr. McCollum and the state. They have signed off on those documents. So procedurally, Judge, I don't know if the court would like to invoke the 24-hour rule.
What's the position of the state?
Your Honor, the state's position is, in light of the defense motion on the 1077, that precedes the arraignment given the nature of the request from defense. So I believe at this stage procedurally that would stay arraignment in light of the 1077 request at this time.
$2 million bond in addition to the other conditions of this court as indicated herein. That will conclude this matter.
So they're asking for a competency hearing, and also they're looking at, but they raised the bail, they doubled the bail, or the bond, because
It sounds like there may be many more charges.
there's many more charges. So let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk about his past just a little, and then we're going to get into the rest of it, because he is now charged with 5 counts of first-degree arson. This case it's just shocking. It's just shocking. But let's go clear back to October 11th, 2010, where Aaron Farinacci kills his father in Mesa, Arizona. He was 21. He lived with his parents. Apparently, the family had dinner together, and there was a disagreement over Aaron doing the dishes that escalated to the point that he went in his parents' room, obtained a handgun, and when his father unlocked or opened the door, Aaron shot him twice. He also pointed the gun at his mother, but she fled and called 911.
Wow.
Aaron then, sometime between October 11th and 12th, turned the gun on himself and shot himself. He had a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest, but he lived. So then he is charged, and it was resulted in him being convicted of manslaughter and aggravated assault rather than murder. And he did 10 years in Arizona in prison.
Wow.
The aggravated assault, by the way, was for pointing the gun at his mother. So around 2020, he's released from prison and remains under supervision. He was supposed to complete a mental health and domestic violence program as a part of his supervision, but there's no proof that he ever did. But in early 2024, the supervision ends, and then at some point he moves to Washington, to the Seattle area. And at this point they're saying, yeah, he never really completed the whole mental health domestic violence programs, but they let him off of supervision anyway.
Yeah. Not good.
So then we fast forward to Spokane. So we're going to fast forward to July of 2025. Hold on, let me get to my other notes here. Well, I'm going to bounce around just a little bit. So we know that currently that a citizen sees him starting a fire, as you heard from the press conference. After they arrest him and sit down and visit with him, he admits to starting somewhere around 25 fires.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Starting in July of 2025. He also gives them details about how he planned the Old Trails fire. He planned it for 2 weeks. He was researching weather and intentionally selected August 1st because the conditions then, there was a high wind, would allow for the fire to spread.
Oh my God.
He also says that he discussed researching the serial arsonist John Leonard Orr. This is like the school shooting kids that, emulate some other school shooter. Well, he's that with fire.
Boy.
He created some kind of a delayed ignition device that was modeled on techniques he researched that would allow a person to set a fire some distance away before the flames became obvious. He told the police all about his fascination with fire, about it being powerful and beautiful and is a rebirth of sorts. So detectives start looking into this 25 fire claim, which is a huge task because what fires, right? So that's resulted in 4 additional arson charges, the bond being doubled. Now, of course, we're dealing with the competency issue as well, and they're still investigating. So let's talk about the fires. So here's a fire by fire timeline. So May 2025, this is when his son is born. He had a child. And he told detectives that that's when he started having trouble coping with life issues and started smoking a lot of weed and started setting fires around the area of his apartment. So on July 6, 2025, the first fire is the Aubrey White fire. The Aubrey White fire was near the Centennial Trail in Spokane. It grew to 41 acres and threatened homes and other structures. At the time, investigators determined that it was intentionally set, but they had no idea who.
Jeez.
But he told them specifically that he started the Aubrey White fire.
Damn.
On July 8th of 2025, there's a cluster of fires. This is 2 days after Aubrey White. And they were described as bus-sized fires. These weren't major fires. They were small enough to get out pretty quickly.
Okay.
And these were ones that were started right around his apartment building.
Jesus.
The next fire is the TJ Manock Elliott fire, also on July 8th. This was
Oh my God.
off of Elliott Drive. This is a fire near the Spokane River. It was several separate brush fires. It burned about 4 acres. And the firefighters at that time were not responding to one isolated ignition, it was multiple ignitions. And he also is taking responsibility for that one. But here's the thing, when the police responded to those fires, Aaron Farinacci was contacted by Spokane police. He was a suspect.
Oh, wow.
We don't know why he wasn't arrested. We know that the police had evidence that established that he was the person that ignited those fires, or that they had a suspicion that he ignited those fires, but they didn't have enough evidence to do anything with it.
Wow. That's really sad.
There's several unnamed fires in summer of 2025 around the Spokane area that, again, he's saying he's responsible for about 25 fires. Many of these are ones that were quickly extinguished, that didn't really get a lot of media coverage, that maybe just burned an acre or less, and were just seen as individual incidents. They weren't really going, we've got a firebug here that's doing this. There were some of them, you know, maybe were human caused, maybe weren't big ones and they just didn't know.
Yeah.
So fire number 3, this was the Fort George Equestrian Fire. This was started on August 11th, 2025. This was in Riverside State Park. Apparently it's known by both, of the Fort George fire or as the Equestrian Fire because of where it occurred. This burned 15
Okay.
acres of the equestrian area of the Riverside State Park. It triggered evacuations affecting RV parks and horse/equestrian facilities.
Oh boy.
Police were looking for somebody. They thought that this was somebody that was connected with wildfires. And guess who they come across? Aaron Farinacci. He was sitting on a park bench. He
Oh
was
my
out of
hell.
breath. Troopers actually photographed him, and they photographed his Arizona identification and the package of Bic lighters that he had on his person.
Oh my God.
But they didn't have any evidence to arrest him, so he left. Yeah. Something pretty wild, though. When they look at those photographs from 2025, when they did photograph him, he was wearing what they believed to be the same green shirt that he was wearing when he set the Old Trails fire this year.
Weird. That was his fire shirt.
Yeah. So
Oh
then
my God.
from August on, there are other smaller fires that they don't, again, attribute to Aaron or anyone. But then coming into 2026, now he's researching arsonists. Investigators are saying he was researching how arsonists avoid detection, how delayed ignition devices work. Again, he's studying John Leonard Orr. John Leonard Orr, by the way, is you guys have heard of him before, I'll bet you just might not know it. He was the California fire captain, arson investigator, who was a serial arsonist.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yikes.
All right. So then on July 24th of 2026, so here just last month, he started a fire along Indian Bluff Lane. This is the Indian Bluff fire. It burned 10 to 15 acres in that area. This was only 8 days before the big Old Trails fire.
Jeez.
And then, of course, somewhere around August 1st, the Old Trails planning fire starts. He started planning it around mid-July and then carried it out on August 1st. And that, of course, has been the biggest one that has done an enormous amount of property damage. He had planned this one well. He researched the weather. He followed fire condition through various apps. He was looking for, this is according to him, what he told investigators, he wanted high temperatures, low humidity, and strong winds. And that day,
Oof.
forecast gusts were approaching 50 miles per hour. So it was the perfect storm for him to
Oh, wow.
light the big fire.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what's up. If it weren't for Paul Child, who saw him and got suspicious and did the ultimate see something, say something, they still would
Yeah.
have no idea who was doing this, and this asshole would still be out starting fires.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, and thanks to him, they burned 700 homes.
Oh, yeah. The loss is just immense. It's horrifying.
It's unfathomable, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Jesus.
Crazy. Yeah, so that's what I've got. We'll definitely watch this one march through the courts. Very curious to see what the competency hearing gathers, and we'll just keep on there. We've gone so long that I'm going to skip my last segment and we'll just throw it into something else later this week. It was just a fun dumb criminals anyway, so no biggie. I think we covered the important stuff today for sure.
We did, for sure. All righty. Well, thank you all for being here. We'll be back over on the Trials channel tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Mountain to continue with the Lindsay Clancy trial, and we'll be back here on our main page, True Crime Squad, at 6 p.m. Mountain tomorrow night for case updates. So, we've got lots more to come this week. Thank you all for joining us. Please be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, leave a review, do all those things because it does help us to grow. If you want more content from us, you can go to truecrimesquad.com and join the Super Squad. You get a couple of extra episodes a month. You get to come to the watch party. You get access to the secret archives and, a merch discount, which, all those things are great. And that helps to keep us with the lights on. So we appreciate you all so much. You know it. We are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.
Join the Super Squad, bonus laughs, deeper clues, same sharp sleuths, just extra clues.